we need hormones like leptin and ghrelin, which are basically our hunger cues. So ghrelin signaling our body to like tell us when we're hungry, and leptin being like, okay, we're full, we haven't had enough. But when we have these chemicals circulating in our system, endocrine disrupting chemicals, it shuts off these, so our body is confused, and that's when we then eat and our body goes, well, we're not full, we're not satisfied, it's confused because these receptors are being blocked, or it's altering the way that they function, like endocrine disrupting chemicals. Now, like men in society who are just having like packets of chips and just all these different chemicals and just feeding themselves garbage, that decreases their testosterone and increases their estrogen, so then they have like man boobs and...
Right, so this can just happen just from holding receipts?
With EDCs, it's a cumulative effect over time, so it's just like reducing our exposure when we can. But in today's society, like if we're not careful, it's like, okay, we touch a receipt there, we drink out of a plastic water bottle there, we like put a tin of chickpeas in our dinner. It's like all these little things that we forget about.
So what are the most common things? What are the most common things that have plastic that we don't even realise have plastic?
Ooh, good question. I feel like one that a lot of people forget about is like cosmetics and laundry products, dishwashing liquids. Ways that we can avoid them are like investing in either a glass or stainless steel water bottle instead of relying on plastic water bottles. If you do have like legumes and beans and stuff, just cook them from scratch. It's not that hard.
Instead of tin.
Instead of tin.
I mean, it makes me go to do a shit. And doesn't make me go piss. Why would they put microplastics in a toothpaste?
It's generally from the production line. It's just like unclean, like mass production things that just get popped in there. And it's from all these, like if you read the ingredients of Colgate, you'd be like, I can't identify a single one.
Yeah.
So it's more that the chemicals that are in them that then disrupt our hormones, and then...
Right. Interesting.
Yes.
All right, welcome back to the Stillness Everyday podcast. Today I've got Alicia on from Mindfully Holistic. Alicia is a nutritionist, and we're going to talk today about plastics, obesity, hormones, and periods. Welcome to the podcast, Alicia. Why don't you introduce yourself and then we'll get started.
So, my name's Alicia. I am a clinical nutritionist. I specialise in nervous system ailments, so mental health, cognition, memory, mood, behaviour. Yeah, super passionate about educating people around how their environment, stress and food impacts their life.
Well, let's get started. I've got this question because you always see it everywhere, BPA free. So you want to start by telling us what BPA is?
Okay, so BPA stands for bisphenol A, and it's a chemical that disrupts our hormones. So we generally call them endocrine disrupting chemicals, and our endocrine system controls all of our hormones. So our pineal gland, thyroid, parathyroid, and our testicles and ovaries. So it either blocks or alters the way that hormones function in our body, and hormones contribute to obviously fertility and the way that in females our menstrual cycles flow, and then in males how like endocrine disrupting chemicals can affect fertility, sperm quality, sperm function. BPA particularly is found in plastics and like tin foods, like your tin tomatoes, legumes, all that stuff, and on receipts.
So what's the problem with receipts? Because wouldn't you're just touching it?
Yeah, so that's the thing. It's just BPA is on the linings of things. So it's on the lining of receipts. And when you touch it, our skin, being our biggest organ, absorbs those endocrine disrupting chemicals and therefore messes with your hormones.
So we can't consume anything out of plastic with BPA in it, nor can we touch it, ideally.
Yeah.
So we should just have no plastic near us.
Yeah. And so the problem with products that are labelled BPA free, so we tend to see cans now that are like, oh, BPA free, but this doesn't actually mean anything because this is marketing to just sneaky marketing, essentially, like anything else. So manufacturers have created other chemicals called BPS and BPF, and they don't have to state if they've then replaced BPA with those chemicals that are equally disrupting to our hormones in our body. Right. So they can say, oh, it's BPA free, but they've still put BPS and BPF in it.
Right, and what's BPS and what's BPF stand for?
Bisphenol F and bisphenol S.
Right.
Yeah.
So they do the exact same thing to the body as BPA.
They just have less research because they obviously just manufactured them to be replacements for them. Right. But yeah, we're finding that they have the exact same endocrine disrupting functions.
Can you elaborate more on endocrine disruptive?
Mm-hmm. So our endocrine system, as I just explained, is all the organs that I just said: pineal gland, pituitary gland, thyroid, parathyroid, our adrenal glands, testes and ovaries, and anything so endocrine, meaning all of those organs, and then disrupting, meaning it either alters or blocks their function from occurring. So
what are some diseases that could arise?
Mm-hmm. So it's so many.
Infinite.
So it can just directly cause inflammation of any of these organs, but then the most common one we see is obesity. Mm-hmm. Because obesity is a hormone-driven condition. We need hormones like leptin and ghrelin, which are basically our hunger cues. So ghrelin signalling our body to tell us when we're hungry, and leptin being okay, we're full, we've had enough. But when we have these chemicals circulating in our system, endocrine disrupting chemicals, it shuts off these, so our body is confused, and that's when we then eat and our body goes, well, we're not full, we're not satisfied, it's confused because these receptors are being blocked, or it's altering the way that they function. Right,
so that then would lead to binge eating and that sort of thing?
Yes, it can. Endocrine organs being part of our brain as well, and because our gut and our brain are so intricately connected, it shuts off those signals in our brain as well, as you just touched on how it would relate to binge eating, because our brain doesn't send the signals back to our gut to say, okay, we're satisfied, we're full.
Right, so this can just happen just from holding receipts?
With EDCs, it's a cumulative effect over time, so it's just reducing our exposure when we can. But in today's society, if we're not careful, it's okay, we touch a receipt there, we drink out of a plastic water bottle there, we put a tin of chickpeas in our dinner. It's all these little things that we forget about.
So what are the most common things? What are the most common things that have plastic that we don't even realise have plastic?
Ooh, good question. I feel one that a lot of people forget about is cosmetics and laundry products, dishwashing liquids, everything like that.
The actual liquid themselves have plastic in them?
Yeah, they have little microplastics, or in the lining of their packaging as well. They may have these chemicals in them.
Right. Coffee cups?
Yeah.
Right, so what about the biodegradable ones that... Are they biodegradable plastic and it's still plastic?
I'm not sure.
Right. T-shirts, polyester T-shirts?
Yeah. So polyester being a source of plastic as well. So, and again, our skin being our biggest organ absorbs that and contributes again.
So if you're wearing a T-shirt all the time, your body's just... So you're washing yourself with... Plastic. You're wearing plastic all the time.
Yeah.
I guess plastic toothbrush.
Yep.
Right.
Probably and then if you get Colgate, you've got plastic in that as well.
It's plastic in Colgate.
Mm-hmm. There's little either microplastics or there's
Why would they put microplastics in a toothpaste?
It's generally from the production line. It's just unclean, mass production things that just get popped in there, and it's from all these. If you read the ingredients of Colgate, you'd be I can't identify a single one.
Yeah.
So it's more that the chemicals that are in them that then disrupt our hormones, and then...
Right. So a microplastic, you can't really see it because it's so small?
You can't see it at all, no.
Right. And it's just the deterioration of all the plastic?
True, yeah.
So when they say that fish has microplastics, because the fish are slowly nibbling at little plastics.
What we're throwing in the ocean, yeah.
Right.
It's because we've never had more pollution in the ocean. Microplastics, separate from like endocrine disrupting chemicals themselves, like BPA, but microplastics within our body, because people are like, oh yeah, like plastic circulating my bloodstream, why is that a problem? It causes inflammation because obviously it's a foreign substance to our body, but also microplastics themselves bind to heavy metals, so like mercury, aluminium, those heavy metals that we definitely don't want circulating in our body, as well as microplastics binding to endocrine disrupting chemicals.
So they bind to the chemicals and don't let them come out of your body?
Yes.
Right.
And yeah, that's another thing. They alter our detoxification pathways. So our major detox pathways being breathing, sweating. I'm trying to think of a better word than like weeing and pooing. But yeah, they're our main detoxification pathways. And it not only inhibits this, but we've never seen less physical activity in our society. I feel like most of my patients have constipation and then they're drinking coffee because they just run on stress. So then that dehydrates their body further. They're not urinating as much. It's just everything is just being held inside.
But a coffee makes me go to the toilet.
Yeah, but it is like what you are urinating is like it's yellow, it's dehydrated urine. You're just...
It makes me go to do a shit and it doesn't make me go piss.
That doesn't happen to everyone though, because yeah, like it'll make you poop, but then your body becomes reliant on coffee, and then people can't poo without a coffee, and then it's like, okay, that's a problem.
Okay. And so if there's microplastics going through your system, how could you get rid of them? Can you sweat them out through exercise or a sauna?
You can, but ideally it's about cutting it off at the source. You don't want them there originally. It's like saying, how do I cure type 2 diabetes? It's like, don't get it in the first place.
So if I have, like, say I'm transitioning, like I've just become conscious of what I'm eating, what I'm consuming, and I then want to kind of cleanse myself, is saunas, would that help? Or
yeah, definitely. Saunas can be a great form of detoxification, as in upregulating sweating. Yeah, but ways that we can avoid them are like investing in either a glass or stainless steel water bottle instead of relying on plastic water bottles. If you do have like legumes and beans and stuff, just cook them from scratch. It's not that hard.
Instead of tin.
Instead of tinned.
What about the plastic, like dried ones in plastic? Like lentils or something.
Yeah. Ideally, like buy in bulk when you can. I feel it's cheaper. It's better for the environment.
If someone comes to you wanting to lose weight, obviously food isn't the only thing they've got to think about.
Absolutely. My premise is holistic, and to my name, mindfully holistic. I take like a whole body and whole systems approach. So my patients always go away with dietary, lifestyle, and supplement if necessary protocol. So you can't just like focus on, yes, diet makes up a lot of what we do consume and what is going to benefit them. But then if you don't complement that with at least like 20 to 30% lifestyle, then do you know what I mean? Like you can eat as well as you can, but if you're just running on stress and chronically stressed, then your body's not only not going to absorb anything to make things happen, but you're just creating havoc in your body. It's just going to be in a chronic state of inflammation, and nothing is going to flourish from that state.
So like someone who exercises all the time but eats poorly, it's the same kind of thing.
You can't out-exercise a bad diet, ever. Right. You can say, like, the calories in, calories out kind of argument.
What about those people who... So what about the people who have, like, just eat shit diets but are in looking like good physical shape?
I'd wonder.
Would it come to an end, or would it just be that they're having a calorie deficit, or...
They're having a calorie deficit, but it's like you see these people on social media that have, like, super defined bodies and lean... Like, I used to be one of these people that was on social media, was quite skinny, and people would always compliment my body type. It's like, okay, but behind closed doors, like I wouldn't go to the bathroom for like 2 to 3 days. My hair was falling out. I was like, my skin was dry. I like was so anxious and like so low. It's just like none of that is like, I'd lost my period for so long, especially for women. Having such low body fat is not inducive of health.
So having like abs isn't healthy?
Not for women, no.
What about for men? Like shredded abs?
It depends. Like, that's the way testosterone works, is that it contributes to you guys having more lean muscle mass. So you're going to look more lean than a female. Coming back to like endocrine disrupting chemicals, now like men in society who are just having like packets of chips and just all these different chemicals and just feeding themselves garbage, that decreases their testosterone and increases their estrogen. So then they have like man boobs and
what else?
low testosterone, so like poor sperm quality. They're probably infertile.
There's something about the fertility rate is going to be at 0 in like 2050 or something?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Is that because of everything we just spoke about?
Everything we just spoke about, and then, yeah, obviously our disconnection with nature, I feel like relationships have never been more dysfunctional. Yeah, what we are consuming, and on every level, like consuming internally but also consuming externally, and being stressed. Like if you are chronically stressed, you are not going to get pregnant.
So if you were preparing someone to get pregnant, what's some tips you would give them?
Kind of just everything we spoke about. I am a big believer that the child chooses you, so energetically as well. If you're not ready, the child will not come. And yeah, I think definitely for a woman, if you have like body dysmorphia, or you're talking negatively about yourself and you're not then, I guess, producing or creating that beautiful environment for that bub to be nurtured into as well. So it's about, I feel like it comes back to women having a supportive community around them as well.
So health-wise, though, they would obviously cut out all the rubbish.
Yeah, definitely.
For a period of time. I mean, obviously, ideally, you want to just give it up, but...
Yeah, 6 months, like minimum, to kind of get people on track before they start actually trying to conceive.
Yeah, right.
Both. And it has to be the man and the woman, not just the woman doing everything.
And what's the go with endo? Is that linked to infertility in women? Or?
So endometriosis it can cause infertility, much like any other female hormone condition like PCOS, endometriosis, hypothalamic amenorrhea. We can speak about all those in more detail, but specifically with endometriosis, that is an estrogen dominant condition, meaning there is too much estrogen circulating in the woman's system. It's characterized by, so within our uterus, on our uterine wall, it's when cells from the inside walls of the uterus start growing outside of the uterus. So typically on our pelvis. So that then causes extreme pain, because when we do then have our period and our endometrial lining is stimulated, that stimulates the endometrial cells everywhere else. Like it could be, on our pelvis, but it can go anywhere up to your lungs or anywhere else as well. It just spreads. Like when we're treating it, we focus on detoxifying the body from that excess estrogen. Like we just want to bring it back to a normal estrogen. And as we just spoke about, like not exercising, so like not sweating, women who are chronically constipated, I tend to see then excess estrogen recirculating in their body because they're not getting it out of their system. Yeah, but all these like plastics and heavy metals contribute to inflammation, which then contributes further to the endometrium being inflamed and then causing endometriosis.
So as a woman, how would you know that you have that? Is it when you've got a painful period? Is that
right? So
a sign of it?
Signs of endometriosis are like it's abnormal bleeding, so it can be either very heavy or very light, extreme pain and excruciating pain, which pain with periods is not normal. it is common, like most women tend to have it now in today's society, but it is definitely not normal. It's not something that we should normalise, or like you should be having painless periods like all throughout your cycle. So pain's a huge one, but the biggest red flag for me that I'm like, oh, it might be endo, is pain during sex, especially like deep penetrative sex, because it's then like hitting the cervix where potentially that uterine tissue is being then hit and inflamed.
Right. Back to the painful period. I don't know where I saw it. It was an ad on Facebook or something, and it said painful periods are normal. It's okay or something. Why do you think that'd be? Why do you think that would be, that propaganda would be going out if it's not true?
And that's like so many other things in society. Like we were talking about the other day, how the parameters for sperm quality have decreased to make men feel like, oh, I'm within normal range. It's like, no, they've just brought the markers down because no one is actually meeting the high standard that we need for optimal fertility. Same with blood pressure. Normal blood pressure used to be 110/70, and now they've brought it up to 120/80 as normal. But it's like no one's even getting to that. And
no one's getting to that. As in, like, it's higher.
I don't see many people around like with a healthy blood pressure anymore. Yeah, and that's the same with painful heavy periods. It's making women feel like, oh, it's fine, it's normal. Right,
rather than dealing with it.
Yeah.
Why? Because dealing with it means that there's less profit, do you reckon? Like, do they sell, the pharmaceutical industry sell drugs for endometriosis or painful periods, or?
Not endo, but I think they definitely sell things for painful periods, absolutely. Like all painkillers profit off you being in pain.
That's true.
There's I'm trying to think of the acronym for it now, but it basically stimulates the muscles in your ovaries to contract so that the pain decreases, but I think it's a TNS machine, but you basically like stick it on. But there's just like so many, that's just like one example, but there's so many products now that profit off you having a period pain or pain in general.
Right. I was just going to ask something about pads, tampons and cups. Like, is there pros and cons of each? Is there any pros in some of them? They all cons?
I think tampons are definitely the worst thing you can probably do. I know that they are like now coming out with like 100% cotton tampons, but again, most tampons have like a plastic lining over them, more just because like it's easier to insert. Like if you've ever tried like a 100% cotton tampon, it's like harder to get up, might be a bit more painful. So regular tampons just have like a really light plastic coating over them. So coming back to endo, regular tampon use can be a contributor to endometriosis, because when you put a tampon up your vagina, then it causes what's called retrograde menstruation, which means it goes the wrong way. It's not coming out of your vagina, it's going up. So that blood and that, because during your period it's like sloughing off the walls of your uterus, and that's the bleed. So it's going up, or like up your fallopian tubes into your uterus, and then those little fragments that should have been coming out are now going up, and then they're growing. Those cells are growing outside of your uterus.
Right. So
that's on tampons.
So pad would be better because it bleeds onto. Pads would be
a better option for people who don't want to use, or like don't want to insert something. If you're fine with inserting things, I would go with a menstrual cup. Menstrual cups are usually made from silicone, which is like a sand, or like it's silica, which is made from sand or natural elements. But yeah, and that still just allows you to like bleed into the cup, and then you just empty it. It's not like pushing it back in. But yeah, if you don't feel comfortable with something inside your vagina, a pad, they do have cotton pads, but again, like we're progressing beautifully now where we have like period underwear, which are made from like 100% bamboo or cotton. You can also get cotton pads now, reusable pads, or you can just free bleed.
So, and what about the pill? I'm sure there's a million reasons why you shouldn't be on the pill, but give me a couple.
A couple?
The main ones, your main concern.
My main concern is that you're not having a period. So I feel like this is a common misconception with the pill. So you have like, I'm pretty sure it's like a 28-day pill packet, and then you have 3 to 5 days on that are just sugar pills. So sugar meaning like it's literally just sugar, and you're just taking it for the sake of routine, like taking it because you have to take the pill at the exact same time every single day. And you're just having what's called a withdrawal bleed. You're not having a period, you are having withdrawals from the pill. When I was like 16, 17 and I should have lost my period, like I ended up in hospital from anorexia. They were like, how are you still having your period? And at that time I had no idea. I was like, oh, like I'm on the pills, I'm just having my period. And they were like, no, like you're just having a withdrawal bleed, but you're shutting off like that innate beautiful menstrual cycle, that you're shutting off ovulation, you're shutting off your menstrual cycle, and just like the whole like fluctuation of hormones. So like the rise in estrogen, the rise in progesterone, like all these things, it's just like you are flatlining throughout your entire period. Oh, throughout your entire cycle, sorry.
Doesn't sound healthy.
No. Because, yeah, and the pill, super interestingly, changes our brain neurochemistry. So there's really interesting research now about how it lowers women's standards for men. So when women are on the pill, they will tend to go with men that if they then come off the pill, then they're like, oh my gosh, why am I with this male?
I could come up with so many conspiracies with that. So I've brought in I went shopping at my favourite place, Coles, and I was extremely triggered while I was in there and carrying this bag to the podcast studio. On the next episode, I'm going to pull things out, and you're going to tell me why we shouldn't be consuming this stuff.
Perfect.
All right.